chase them out?
No, I scolded him and beat him for chasing deer. He looks at the deer now and I just look at it.
Oh, they don't. They're
I
not.
got a picture of him. He was laying on the porch here a couple weeks ago and I had deer in the yard like 20 hands and he just sitting there.
Not good. Well, I don't know what to tell you.
You're not
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
help.
I can come get it and I can
No,
trade you some shitty hay. I can find some hay they won't eat.
Do you know if you have any more or not?
Not yet, I'm working on it.
Any more shitty?
Which were you asking for? Probably live.
Yes.
Oh,
He wants from. What? Nothing, why are you laughing? He's got me watching the box. I started that early, we stepped on it.
Right.
So does that only show, does it show if anybody is ever listening in or?
Just IT is on and then they.
Just
IT,
broadcast
But,
it.
but the general public,
It'll show if they.
it'll show if
If they log
anybody.
in, but they can also be watching it on YouTube
Right.
and they don't have to
And
know.
it'll have right there.
Okay. Molly, would you lead us in the question?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Good morning. So with that, we will start today with the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as listed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. So now we're at. This is a public hearing.
Pretty sure.
Go ahead if you don't expect anything. We're only 4 minutes.
Let's start the public hearing.
Yes, open a public hearing to consider liquor license transfer application from Top of the World Inc. to 999.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a mid-year transfer of a full retail liquor license. Bart Mellum, owner of Top of the World Inc., has sold to Jarrett Miller, who has 999 Inc. and will run businesses Top of the World Resort, and that is up on the between Sunlight Basin and Red Lodge on the pass. I can't think of the pass. Beartooth Pass. Thank you. Stumbling there for a second. Thank you. And the application has been vetted by the state Wyoming Liquor Division with nothing, no concerns from their end. The transfer fee and the publication fee will be paid today when they pick up the license, should it be approved by this board. We have a letter from Bart Millum, former owner, agreeing to the transfer. And we also have the lease from the Department of Agriculture Forest Service stating that 999 Inc. has a valid lease with them, with the Forest Service, that does allow for liquor sales on the forest. So with that, Madam Chairman, I don't have anything further really to report. Stand for questions.
Question? Here's a public hearing, so I'd ask if there's any public comments.
Fair. I'll move we close the public hearing.
Second.
hearing, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I move we approve. Transfer.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And boards. Sorry, there.
They help me out.
Here, it's here. Thank you.
Morning, Brian. Hey, how you doing? Good, how are you? See you later.
And the next one is not a public hearing, so we could go ahead and review the updated fee schedule. On your reports, it is a draft resolution until we fill in the dates. But any thoughts, changes? I'm sorry, I didn't think your hand was up. You were counting it. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, I was looking through these and they all look, I don't have really any questions other than are any of these fees changed?
Yes.
And I would like to, if there's any way, I would like to have seen, the old fee versus the new fee.
I don't think they changed a lot. I don't think.
We updated ours a little, you
What's a
know,
little?
well, we try to keep it current to whatever we're doing in what works, but yes, we changed ours.
Are we talking $10?
No.
Okay,
A couple dollars each.
and I think Joyce were about the same when I understood.
Well, that's, I guess, where I was at, is if there is a major change in the fee, an explanation as to why. Some of, we are a government entity, we should be working for the people anyway, and some of these fees, I understand, some of them are kind of like, isn't that our service, isn't that why we're here, kind of a thing, but
I think, Madam Chair, I think ours was mainly the unit costs, so like for labor, for equipment, that just because those do change per year, you know, whether it be fuel costs, but labor, where people get ready, so our costs are actual costs and not trying to make a profit, but that's why we changed, just because we get change.
with that, on the actual cost, I mean, yours, one of yours that stuck out to me was that I still don't see how you can only have an actual cost of $40 an hour for a grader. And then pickups, a vehicle pickup is the same price. I mean, I know we get a good deal with the buyback program, but we have the initial investment of those machines. I just don't know, you know, if we're to come to the point where we actually have to farm that out, we need to be.
Covered our
Private
costs.
sector, if you're going out for $40 an hour, your operator is 45, 85.
I got some work out.
Yeah, no kidding, me too. You want to subcontract?
You guys-
Sounds like you need to go out to Jody Lane.
No, I can show you the numbers there, our costs.
I know,
If
but
you guys
the
want to,
rest of your equipment is relatively below
yeah,
the private sector, but the grader especially, my gosh.
that's why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, it is phenomenal.
Brian, aren't those costs the ones that normally would get like firefighting? Forest
Yeah,
Service,
yeah, it's not like we
FEMA?
never really use it anyway.
They're other
It-
governmental entities that we would
Yeah,
be supporting
exactly,
for the most part.
exactly. It's not like probably, you know, since I've been here just a
I
couple
know,
of
but
times.
it looked really bad when we do, and those are also the costs, Madam Chair, when we do like Forest Service cooperation work. And the grader is one in particular.
Let me
One
email
of
you.
them a sweet ass deal.
Let me email you what the basis is. It's got everything. And I mean, for every one of our graders. And you see whether you agree or not, but
Yeah, man,
It is
the only
numbers.
comment that I would have, I mean, your points are well taken, but I mean, this is for, as Chairman pointed out, for when we contract out on a forest fire or something like that. I know on that witch fire that we had up there, we had a dozer that sat up there for down there 2 weeks. I think it was used for like 2 hours.
Yep.
And so we got paid for those full 2 weeks. So I think it all evens out.
But, I'm sure that, Public Works is one thing, but I just, is there any major changes in that P and Z or clerk's office or any of these that are?
Well, ours are all set by statute, so we have no choice. The only thing is I did add ARCA search on the end of mine with the IDOT market, because I want people to know that that's available to them now.
My understanding of the only changes through P and Z were the same type of thing that Brian was talking about, is if it's got her employee time in it, then those were raised to reflect the raise in the employee time from a year ago. So that's my
The
understanding.
employee time, I didn't have any issues with.
Right.
This was,
I
I
don't
didn't
think
know
there
what
were
we
any-
charged before versus what our.
Because we just did this a year ago, a little over a year ago. So there wasn't a lot, but they do want to try to keep up with it rather than jumping in a lot 5 years from now or something. They try to keep it equal.
In the future, is it possible to ask that the departments give us the old previous rates along with the
Yeah, highlight the new.
increase?
Okay, I get it. Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move we approve the updated fee schedule and the effective date.
Second.
Effective date of,
I have to go.
50.
Right, so.
He's going to effect today, so we're saying do it right away, as soon as we
I'm
sign
gonna
it.
say,
Immediately.
you want it today or do you want it like March 1? So they have time to change the signs in their office.
I'll change that to be March 1st. Give them time,
Okay,
2 weeks.
I'll change my second,
Okay, good, thank you.
March 1.
Okay. So I have a motion to approve the updated fee schedule and for a start date of March 1. Any further discussion? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No opposed. Okay. Thank you. Morning, ma'am. Okay. That's what a few more minutes. Oh, we have a public hearing. So, not actually a public hearing, but we'll give it a few minutes for a little bit ahead of time. You're welcome to take a seat if you want.
I'm good, I'm good. You know? Madam Chair told me to get the hot seat. Oh. He's like, not yet. You know? Not getting bored yet, are you? No. Okay.
No,
never
make sure
bored.
you use the old equipment, not the
There's always something. Every time I
Oh,
wrap
really?
up one, it's like
Yes.
perfect. We're getting
Yeah,
down
actually,
on a couple, and all of a
think
sudden a
about
couple
that.
more come in.
Yes.
Just saying.
It's
We'll change that.
Yeah,
You may be the
it
only
is. Well, it's been nice, man. We haven't had much of a shutdown to be outside.
You-
We've
oh,
been
yeah,
outside
it's
for
We're all
a bit.
bitching about the equipment, they all should have noticed.
That part, I know we can snow.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's what their complaint was. They should know
Correct.
what the equipment looked like.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I know, right?
It's kind of coming of age, you know, because for there for a while, we were doing just a ton of
I swear.
subdivisions. Then the last month, they're cutting to
SUPs.
and a bunch of SUPs.
Yeah, I saw that,
A bunch of SUPs.
you know, I'm working on another couple subdivisions again now, so
Yeah,
who knows,
yeah, they'll come around.
you know?
But I
There
could
was no
tell you what I
bill.
changed. I didn't notice any rules. I've got it. I can show you what
I know it just looks funny. I mean, everything else, you just gotta remember, we're on a different scale, you know. We're in a different world. We are. I mean, things like get government rates, you can't do that in the private sector. It is, it's weird. Shawshank Redemption, though. Different. It's hard to look at that. I know. That's the hardest thing for me is to, especially public works, you know, the government working at a net zero versus from my whole life I've been, you gotta, you know, make profit. Yeah. Where you can have profit, it's gotta allow you to build your own. Yeah. And without that, we have zero, zero. It could be simple, but you can't like say that plus the government.
It's different with other equipment. Those are those are some of that other we don't
Right.
have.
And it shows though.
Yeah, it shows.
All the transit problems.
Exactly. Because in here.
That's not good. So I-
Which is. Instead of doing would be eating red meat, it was, like whiskey, but drink whiskey, bottle of whiskey. Well, you do something for stress, as I do, I drink whiskey. Yeah.
That was your bottle?
Yeah.
Yeah. The one shot.
That's,
I don't believe there's anybody alcoholic. Is there?
One shot.
There is for
Oh.
the Jody Lane stuff.
I know I was too, it's like, oh, nobody showed up. That's all.
good morning. How we doing? Good. Check it out.
Okay, and continuing with our agenda, the next item is discuss and make a decision on the administrative relief appeal for Jody Lane minor subdivision number 62. We will start this one. We all received the information. We had a lot of discussion and input at the last meeting. So what's the desire of the commissioners?
Madam Chair, the last discussion, there was concern on the private easement, if there was any stipulations, and finding out that there is none. I still fall with my original opinion as to approve administrative relief for the paving, but not the widening of Jody Lane. Or
Is that in the form of a motion?
I so move.
I'll second the discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to
I got a quick question.
amend the administrative relief to not have paving, but to have the road widening
And surface.
and surface. Okay, and it's been moved and seconded, so further discussion.
Further discussion. When you say widening, so there's that one section of the road,
Correct.
and that section is gonna be difficult to widen because of the irrigation infrastructure.
I believe it was- Madam Chair, I believe it was discussed that if it won't be as big an issue if there was indeed room. Is that?
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
on your motion, might keep in mind, so the administrative relief did have in there widening the road. And I think I said 20 feet. I think the idea was to widen it as wide as you can, 24, within that irrigation infrastructure, so you're not having to relocate utilities and whatnot, but I think everybody agrees that it could be widened from what it is, but that's kind of how the administrative relief is written. It's just.
Okay, then my other question would be, depending on what we do there or what decision we make on width, whether it's 20 or 24, are we affecting the lot sizes and what happens with that, or can that be taken care of?
There's ample room for all that, but my question, Madam Chair, is so I would like it to be clear on the record. Does this apply to the entirety of Jody Lane from the beginning all the way up into the new subdivision portion? Or are you handling the original part of Jody Lane that's already existing separately from the piece that has to be added to serve this subdivision?
What was the
Madam
intent?
Chair, would you like me to clarify the motion?
Yes, please.
My motion would be to widen and surface the entire length of Jody Lane to the proposed new subdivision.
Two were
To
including,
24 foot.
We're including.
two were including the new subdivision, because it goes up to all 4 lots, so two, so including the new subdivision.
Yes.
Okay.
You agree with
Yes,
that?
I agree with that. Madam Chair, just for discussion, I'd feel more comfortable, and maybe Brian can help us out here, is if we have a definitive width when we make our decision, rather than just saying widening. Well, I mean, what is
I
widening?
said 24 feet.
Oh, I didn't hear that in the motion.
He just
Maybe
clarified that.
Okay, all right, so it is 24. Okay, I'm sorry.
And I think you could get that most of the way. These guys would know better, but there's a couple places where there's choke points that, gonna have to work on it a little bit, but I think you could get that most of the way.
Commissioner Coleman?
Judge, Madam Chair, just a point of clarification. Now, if all of this that we're talking about is covered in Brian's administrative relief, then we don't need your motion. Basically, the motion would be to deny the appeal.
But it's.
I did say 20 feet. I said 20,
it's
not
20
20.
feet, so we'll make a motion to clarify the process. Because he had 20 feet on road width, and we're talking 20 feet.
Yeah, because basically what was proposed after we talked back and forth with the developer, the engineer, was they were looking at, they would be willing to widen that to 20 feet on the existing part of Jody Lane, and then they might go just 20 feet on the new part as well to offset that cost. So that's kind of how the administrative relief was geared towards that. But, again, I think I don't have a problem with the 24 foot. I was trying to get all the landowners to participate long-term in an agreement, and that's part of how my administrative relief was written. But the main issue for me was the paving. Paving did not make sense.
So the 24 is not going to be problematic.
I don't believe so, other than a couple choke points.
Yeah.
Cody know better. I think that's not.
I don't think it won't be a problem.
So,
As long as they don't have to do the whole, like the ditches and everything else, like the specs always show.
There's not a lot of room for other things.
Joy?
So, Madam Chair, it would be my understanding that you would be then upholding or approving the administrative relief on the no paving. However, you would be overturning or disagreeing with the administrative relief on the widening of the road, which would then default them to have to fulfill the widening requirements per the standard with no administrative relief.
so.
Yeah, gravel surface, yeah.
Just surface.
Just
To
the surface.
clarify the motion that I believe I have right now is to
Go ahead, Brent.
the motion would be to grant the administrative relief in the paving portion, but to require the entire road to be widened to 24 feet and surface.
Just another question on the clarification, as it's confusing, because the meeting is about upholding the appeal or denying the appeal. And then if we alter the administrative relief, that could be in the form of a separate motion, correct?
You're asking the wrong person there.
But I mean, to me,
Right.
what this meeting is about, we have an appeal.
Right.
And they've appealed Brian's decision to the Board of County Commissioners. So if we deny the appeal, which looks like that's the way we're headed, then we can make another motion altering the administrative relief.
Well, you're like, Madam Chair, you're not fully denying the appeal though.
No, I
Yeah, I think I understand what you're trying to say.
So,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, and I understand where Commissioner Tilden is going. And so instead of denying the appeal, we can uphold the appeal with changes to the administrative relief. I might be getting more confused there.
yeah.
But if we uphold, Brian gave him administrative relief on paving and widening the road to more than 20 feet. If we alter the administrative relief and uphold the appeal.
It's just like if you go to court. So the court is gonna say, if I appealed your decision to court, they would say, okay, we're either gonna uphold your decision or not. Well, they're appealing his decision.
Right.
So you're deciding if you're gonna uphold his decision or not on both matters. So you're achieving the same in one action.
Yeah. So I think it covers.
I do too.
As long as you're happy with it, I'm happy with
There's no happiness here. It
it.
is.
I guess I would, since she's here, I would ask Valerie, do you think the motion that we have will work for what we are intending to do with this administrative relief appeal?
Typically, although obviously Robert's rules and everything differs, you can uphold in part and then deny in part as well. So it sounds like that's what you're proposing at this point, is to uphold one section and deny another.
You're good.
Okay.
Madam Chair, do we have a restating of the actual motion?
No. Yes. Okay.
Go in.
All right, what do I have here? Have to see the motion. Okay, Mr. Theo made the motion, and then Chairwoman Ms. Overfield restated it. The motion right now is to grant administrative relief in the paving portion of the document, but require the entire road be 24-foot wide and surfaced.
Okay.
Does that sound?
Gravel surface.
It's all anybody said was surface.
Yeah, I would,
So do
Madam
we need to
Chair.
clarify gravel?
Yeah, I think I would say 24-foot wide gravel surface. Because there's also shoulder, there's other things that are in that county road standard,
Okay,
utilities and things that are not possible to do with.
Madam Chair, Brian, do we need to state in there gravel surface to county road standard? Well, no, as far as
That's what I'm
the surface itself.
Yeah,
So what defines gravel? What, you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
And what defines surface? And you
Instead
we
of
go-
looking for
yeah.
4 inches. of
yeah, exactly. So would you amend your motion to county gravel, certain gravel surface to county road standard?
No, it's gravel.
I do.
Gravel's not up to your standard right now.
Agree with that.
oh, it's out there. Yeah, that's good.
Colleen, did you get that?
Amending the motion to meet county road standards for surface gravel.
Yeah.
4 foot.
Yes.
Just a quick question, you mentioned the choke points, so they would also be 24.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think we can make, as long as it's just the surface at 24 foot, I think we can make those choke points work. Alignment might be a little bit in those areas, a little whatever, but
We'll come forward with administrative relief then.
yeah.
Just try to be careful not to
Yeah.
use too much, that it is the residential road or local access road standard, because there are other things that are involved with that, shoulders, utilities, drainage ditches that are hard to do because of what we're doing.
And our concern would be, but I think we can work around it, is that existing material out there might not meet the county standards of what road base is. So as long as we don't have to replace the whole width, we would be adding on to whatever it takes to get to that 24-foot width. We would be satisfied with that. That makes sense.
Would you still kind of
Crown
crown
it,
the
yes,
road
yeah.
and
Yeah.
regrade it all? I think.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it, I just don't like the way the things we're doing it, I don't think it's quite right, but anyway. I'm all for what we're trying to do.
Okay, so Brian, with the motion the way we have it right now, that clarifies what's required for this subdivision to move forward. We haven't approved the subdivision yet, but to move forward as far as you're concerned.
As far as I'm concerned, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that you've all heard several times. I'm not gonna throw it over again. So, any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
I
Anyone opposed? Okay. Well, paving and a 24-foot gravel road being higher than the subdivision.
The entire length of Jody
Jody
Lane.
Lane, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So have a minute or two, and we have the continued public hearing for the Jody Lane subdivision, minor subdivision number 63. Because it's a public hearing, we'll wait a couple minutes. Now you want to.
Yes.
I did not see. To my knowledge.
This, yeah, this we're just scraping.
I don't think we can.
Something right in this little spot.
Correct.
Thank you, Melanie. Open the continued public hearing for Jody Lane minor subdivision. We want to start this. Do the commissioners have any questions to start with? Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, I have a question with per staff. On the condition of having to meet with the game and fish recommendations. I know this, we've had this discussion many times. We're putting conditions that how are we to follow up and make sure that these conditions are carried out? Because they're quite extensive in the game and fish's recommendations.
Madam Chair, just the second one I found. We have their letter in this packet. Let me see if I can find it.
Well, I was, and then I lost it. It's only what, 140 pages long here so far.
Yeah, so-
Trying to find where they're.
I think it's all about you too.
So game and fish addressed obviously chronic wasting disease, but they went through and addressed like
If I remember right, they addressed like
16 areas.
feeding and, dogs and a whole lot, basically it's kind of switched. Before their concern was the effects on wildlife as far as dispersing them and displacing them. And now we found their concern is the subdivisions are actually causing them to bring them into more condensed areas. And in their fear is CWD is transmitted more easily through condensed areas like in town and whatnot. That's what we're seeing in these subdivisions. So their recommendations are quite extensive on trying to avoid that. And here we're putting in, and like I said, this condition is, I'm all for it, but I don't, it's a rule that nobody can enforce. I mean, it's just not a problem with it. It's one of those conditions that if we're not, why are we gonna have it in there if we can't follow up or make it known on the plat at least, or I don't know what the answer is. That's just my concern. Yeah, I did.
Was that a conditional approval?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
We can throw it out, but I think it's a good condition. I just don't know how you can enforce it.
Yeah, Madam Chair. The condition is the applicants shall comply with the recommendations of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, which is basically a blanket recommendation for what they have provided. You may decide that that's too strict. You may say, the applicant shall consult with the Game and Fish Department representative, or you could say nothing. It's your choice. We typically carry over to recommendations and conditions. That's just a typical thing that we do, and then we kind of leave it to you to decide how to handle that.
Madam Chair, I'm not comfortable with the word comply. Anything with game and fish.
Madam Chair. Was there any covenants plan for this subdivision?
So in part of that would be, not feeding here and such.
So far, planning and zoning recommended that the applicants submit covenants that address domestic pets, trash, and livestock at a minimum. And that was in particular because there were concerns. There were concerns from the neighbors about pets potentially interfering with livestock, and there were fencing and things like that. So that was what we mentioned as a result of planning and zoning, but that wasn't specific to game and fish's recommendations. And if you do look in here, they do kind of talk about covenants or restrictions on shrubbery, domestic animals. So there's a variety of things in here which potentially could be addressed in covenants that would assist with complying with this. But it is very extensive. I mean, they go through 16 categories. If they mention off-road vehicles being restricted in the covenants, they talk about chemical herbicides, pesticides, and fertilizers being discouraged. Now, granted, a lot of that would probably be covered under the weed plan, which is required. Yeah, they address quite a few things here. So I don't know how you want to handle that.
Madam Chair, actually, let's put this question to the applicant. Are you guys comfortable with language that says you must comply with game and fish recommendations? I'm not.
I don't think it's possible under what they're talking about. I mean, we're gonna do everything we can to stay compliant and stay, friendly with everything, but at the same token, that language is almost impossible for anybody to follow.
That's my concern. Thank you. I'm trying to find it.
It's page 39 of the 109.
Not sure that.
Garbage.
Part of the problem we have, Madam Chair, is game and fish will give us recommendations, but we've asked them to be clear when something is regulatory versus recommended. And we have not really been getting that clarity. So, I mean, again, it's saying shall, but is it a rule? Is it a game and fish rule, or is that their recommendations? And so we just haven't quite been getting that connection with them. In particular, like we had another subdivision with an eagle nest within a half mile, and we said, well, are you requiring them to do something specific because of that nest, or are you just recommending? And literally, they have not answered that question. So we're really having trouble getting that figured out.
Well, and that's the problem I have is if it's a recommendation, but you must comply with that recommendation, then it becomes an enforceable event. Regardless of whether it's a law or not, I'm hesitant to use the word comply when it's not a you by law you have to comply by something that's a law. But to order you to comply with something that's a recommendation, I have heartburn with that.
So, Madam Chair, would we be happy with leaving condition 2, but just rewording and say the applicant, it's recommended the applicant comply with recommendations of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department? I mean, where it's not a must do, and then we don't have, it's just recommended that they comply.
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, in their letter, it says that they said, hope that if the subdivision does occur, that they adhere to these recommendations as close as possible. So there's not a word comply in there, or they just say adhere to it as close as possible. Isn't that first paragraph?
22.
It says that this subdivision will likely exacerbate all of the concerns previously listed. We offer the standard subdivision recommendations and hope that if this subdivision does occur, these are adhered to as closely as possible. Sometimes they use the word shall, and sometimes they use the word, most of the time they use the word should, which is not.
But but what we're after, Madam Chair, is in the conditions. The conditions say the applicant shall comply. So I'm along with Commissioner Teal, I don't want that as a condition, or if we're gonna make a condition, we change it to recommended that they follow the recommendations.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yeah, the only comment I have, I would agree with Lee on that. I mean, to me, if we put it in there as something from the county and we say they shall do that, then to me, that puts the onus on us to enforce it. And I don't want to enforce it.
And I don't even want to I wouldn't be comfortable enforcing it.
No, I wouldn't either. So I think your wording is probably good. And we're encouraging them to comply and work with the game. That's all.
So do you want it to say the applicant is encouraged?
Yeah.
Follow.
You know, and if I'm mad about it, you know, reading over the game and fish recommendation, it seems to me that that's probably pretty boilerplate.
It is.
Yeah. But it's not specific to this area. There's a lot of stuff they have in there that's kind of ambiguous.
This is a public hearing. Is there any public comment?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is closed. What's the desire of the commission?
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the subdivision with the changes on condition number 2, that the applicant is encouraged to follow the recommendations of the Wyoming Game and Fish Department.
Thanks.
Second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So we have a break.
You have a number for me,
Oh, you wanted number today?
please?
2022-16.
No, please, my plan.
I mean, at a point very well.
We're gonna put-
about ready to go? You about ready to go?
Oh, is Lee gone now?
Lee did leave. Yes. I should want to extend that over Cheyenne with some pre-legislative meetings. So with that, and with you have a public hearing for Merit Energy for SUP 224.
All right, indeed, Madam Chairman, you bet. We have a special application, special use application received by Merit Energy on December 2nd of 2021. They're requesting to be allowed construction of a 140 foot tall communication tower on a 14 by 14 concrete base and including 7 small to medium dish antennae and 2 omnidirectional antennas to be mounted on this tower. Use classification is a major utility use. Merit Energy has a surface deed for this property. A little bit of history, the tower, the property where the tower will be constructed is located in the Oregon Basin oil field. And Oregon Basin has been producing oil out there for over 90 years. This tower will be constructed on an unaddressed site approximately 6 miles southeast of Cody, east of State Highway 120, and northeast of County Road 3FK. This use is located in a GR 35 zoning district. Neighboring land uses, the property is surrounded by land managed by the BLM, and surrounding land uses nearby are primarily oil and natural gas production with some ag production located in the general vicinity, but private land uses are as far away as 1.5 miles. Site characteristics: the tower will be constructed on a site where there are existing buildings, towers, wells, and service roads. Legal notices: a notice of public hearing was advertised in the Cody Enterprise on February 1st and February 8th, 2022. Written notices were mailed to neighboring property owners within 660 feet of the subject property on January 26th. And the staff report was provided to the applicant and the Board of County Commissioners prior to this public hearing. Agency referrals have all been sent out and responses. Park County Public Weed does not require a long-term noxious weed management plan. However, the applicants are required to follow the best management practice for controlling the spread of noxious weeds. Game and Fish responded that the proposed use is located in the Oregon Basin sage-grouse core. Merit Energy is working closely with them to comply with what is required for that. No public comments have been received. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this and January 19th, 2022 and recommended approval with conditions. All of those conditions have been met. Statement of compatibility: this tower is a freestanding tower on an overall height of 140 feet and will be situated on a 14 by 14 foot concrete base. There will be no noise generated by the tower, and there will be no natural gas. There will be a natural gas generator that has a maximum of 67 dBA sound output comparable to a washing machine. The generator will only be a use during power outages, as Merit will be running the power to the tower from their existing facilities at this location. The tower will not have lighting other than very small status lights. No outdoor lighting is proposed. The property has no non-conformities. No nuisances have been reported. A soils report is not required for this new structure. Access can be obtained by State Highway 120 onto county roads or from State Highway 14, 16, 20. Domestic water is not proposed or required for this use. The parcel is not within the boundaries of an irrigation district, so there'll be no impact on irrigation facilities. Designated parking is not required. The proposed use will not produce sewage or wastewater. Power for this facility, as I said, will be supplied by the nearby Merit Energy substation. No signs are proposed. The proposed use will not create solid waste. There are no special specific criteria identified and is not located within overlay district. Site plan review is required for major utility use. However, this project is exempt from review because the construction will not include new buildings exceeding 5,000 square feet of floor area, and the new development of the land does not exceed 1 acre in size. Madam Chair, we have a list of our findings and staff recommendations for any conditions, and we can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff?
Very quick. This is the planning and information approval condition. It goes back to the last one we had with the game and fish. Should applicant shall submit a response, no, excuse me, applicant shall comply with requirements set by Wyoming Game and Fish Department and Oregon Basin regarding the state ground core area. And I'm not sure, that still put us using the word shall, but still put us in the enforcement end of it.
In reading their letter, there is an executive order on the safe grounds court. So I don't know if that makes a difference in.
Well, I mean, that's between the applicant and the
Right,
state.
so how would you word that? I mean,
I
our
would say
expectations are that they would be.
Encourage them to comply with the requirements set by the Game and Fish Department.
This is public hearing, so are there any public comments?
Chairman, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? None of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, public hearing is closed. What's the desire of the commission?
Madam Chairman, I'll move we approve, with the exception of the condition number 2, like to change shall to
Recommended the applicant
Yeah.
comply. Instead of shall.
shall, but recommend.
Recommended the applicant comply with the game fish.
Or would you rather have follow?
Hmm?
Would you rather have follow?
As long as it's a
No,
recommended
because,
or.
well, to me, follow, if you use follow, that's still saying that you are gonna require them to do that, where they're required to do it by state statute anyway, because the governor's executive state process. I just don't want to put us in a position of enforcement.
So like the previous one, we encourage them to follow
Yeah,
the recommendations.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve Meredith's request with the change in condition 2. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
18.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do 18.
Thanks, Maura.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure.
You know, we ran this deal with Lonnie when we first started this deal up. The planning for all of that, she violated every state code. Pretty smart thing, and Game and Fish were looking at us for enforcement. We were saying, hey, this is your deal.
So let's encourage them to follow that requirements.
5 minutes.
We do have 5 minutes before the next public hearing. Okay. Scott made it, might be a little strong. Scott made it, might be a little strong.
Is there such as to show
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Is that your understanding? Is encourage them to follow the requirements.
Yeah, that's the requirements.
Yeah. Well, you say.
Right.
Contract across the board.
Okay. Well, that's, yeah. And the lighting thing, you know, those are all, you know. similar to somebody else's regulations.
Coffee too strong? Oh, there you go.
No, it looks really good. How many scoops you put in?
You can't see the bottom of the cup.
How many scoops did you put in?
I don't use measurement, so.
Well, I've made several times, but they have such a tiny little scoop. I put 4.
We can get a bigger one.
They told me it's bigger than that.
3.
I just don't.
So what's about these?
They're legal. Yes.
Only cost them, eh?
Okay, so what did I say? That
One of the reasons we-
And then,
in the morning and-
Hi, Scott. I'm doing fine. How are you?
oh, they're just, oh,
Doing
yeah.
good.
I guess-
Be regular over here.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there. I was just telling Tim, I don't know how I'm going. I should go all around here, but I don't. I think after 62 years, I don't know how I'm going. I got
I
some-
thought I had it right, I haven't signed it.
Tim,
How are you?
I just wanted to make sure I was giving it the right number.
yeah.
Want to try out my brand.
Oh, I see.
Careful there, Scott.
Always want to get done. I have some documents, so we had a question or two on for signatures, so I'll get with you. Okay, I think we're close enough. Call for the public hearing for Miller Barnes special use permit number 25. Thank you.
Thank you. We have an application for special use permit submitted by Reuben Miller, received on December 3rd, 2021. They are requesting permission to operate a business building small storage barns, cabins, greenhouses, and storage sheds to be sold off-site. This business will operate in an approximately 1,600 square foot space within an existing 2,880 square foot shop building on the property where the applicant resides. Classification for this use is cottage industry. And owner of the property is Reuben Miller and Anna Miller. Property is located at a address parcel of 1147 Road 4 in Powell, which is approximately 6 miles southeast of Powell. Access is by driveway that begins at the terminus of County Road 4. It's located in the GRP General Rural Powell zoning district. Site characteristics: the proposed use will be located on a parcel that is relatively flat. There's currently a single family residence, a 40 by 32 garage, and a 72 by 40 workshop / storage building located on this parcel. Much of the area on the property surrounding the proposed use is irrigated farmland. The gravel driveway will be used to access the proposed use, and parking will be gravel. Neighboring land uses near the proposed use are primarily agricultural. There is property managed by the Bureau of Reclamation located along the northern property line of this parcel. The site plan you see in figure 4 identifies the location as a residence, a garage, and the location of the shop building that would be used for the business. The plan shows the driveway and indicates traffic flows. A small parking area is shown just south of the structure. The applicant will have 2 family members as resident employees. This is not located within 1 mile of the municipality, therefore municipal review is not required. Notice of public hearing was published in the Powell Tribune on February 1st and 8th of 2022. Written notice was sent out to neighboring property owners within 660 feet of this property on January 26th, 2022, and the staff report was sent to the applicant and the Board of County Commissioners prior to this public hearing. In our agency referrals, Park County Weed and Pest is not requiring a long-term noxious weed management plan. However, they do recommend the applicant adhere to the best management practices for control of spread noxious weeds. Public Works recommended the shop have an address separate from that of the residence, and they also stated a drainage and erosion control plan is not required. We have received 2 public comments. One comment indicated support for the proposed use. The other comment indicated support for the use provided certain conditions are met. And I think you probably saw those. I can read that to you if you haven't seen it.
What's that?
The public comment with the conditions. You've all seen that.
That, if I could, I read that, but I don't see what the conditions are other than the SUP list is for this specific use, which is standard. Right?
Exactly.
It's really a
And
condition,
that's what it
the way
boiled down to.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if, Madam Chair, I think another condition was this neighbor, or this person, I think, wanted this to be just in the applicant's name.
Right.
However, you know that SUPs run with the land, so that condition really won't be met.
Well, I'm telling them, and we have in the past made them specific to the applicant and not over the land.
Exactly,
So they
yeah.
can go either way.
You absolutely could do that.
All right. So Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this application on January 19th and recommended approval with conditions. Those conditions have all been met. So in the statement of compatibility, the applicant wishes to build small barns, small greenhouses, and storage sheds for sale to the public. These structures will be built on site and sold at an off-site location, and the structures will be built inside the shop. There's no outdoor lights proposed. Disturbances by noise and dust is not anticipated since the structures will be built indoors. Most of the materials and supplies will be stored within the shop to reduce deterioration and to minimize visual impacts. Occasionally, a small quantity of materials will be stored outside should it become necessary. Excuse me. The days and hours of operation will be approximately 8 hours a day, possibly 6 days a week. The applicant and 2 family members that all reside on the property will be the only employees. The applicant anticipates no customers will be visiting at this location. There is no outdoor lighting proposed. The property has no known non-conformities. No nuisances have been reported, and a soils report will not be required for the proposed use. Access is a proposed driveway, is proposed from an existing driveway directly from County Road 4. Domestic water will be provided from an existing well located on the property. The property is located within Millwood Irrigation District. No impacts to irrigation facilities are anticipated. Parking requirements appear to be adequate. And space for unloading supplies and materials and for loading completed structures appears to be adequate. A septic system is located for the residents and will be used to serve this use. Electricity will be provided by solar power. Natural gas is not necessary or proposed for the use. No signs are proposed. Solid waste will be disposed of by private companies. No specific criteria are identified for this use. The proposed use is located in an agricultural overlay district. Use will likely not have a significant impact on area agricultural practices because the majority of the materials and construction will be inside the structure. The applicant is aware of the agricultural practices occurring on neighbor properties. This use will not result in land removed from agricultural production. Site plan review is required for cottage industry use. However, the project is exempt from review because the construction will not exceed 5,000 square feet of floor area and new development of the land does not exceed 1 acre in size. Madam Chair, we have our staff findings and recommended conditions for you and answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff at this time?
Madam Chair, on the condition of small, in reference to the wastewater permit, the existing structure, 2,880 square foot, does it have a bathroom in it already?
No.
It does not. So where is this, are we requiring them to put a bathroom in it then? Is that what I'm?
No, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Commissioner,
The
there.
applicant shall have a
using the
permanent
bathroom
small
in the
wastewater
house.
system on the property side specifically for use prior to commencing the use. That's, so where are we going with this? If we're not required to put a bathroom, how do we?
So my understanding is the bathroom, well, there'll be bathrooms in-house, and they're in the process of putting in a small wastewater system now. And our recommended condition, I think, was to have that be permitted prior to the use beginning, should you approve it.
The resident exists right now.
It is, I think the structure exists. I don't believe it's being lived in. And this use hasn't commenced yet. But yeah, I believe the residence building exists, not lived in yet. And there's not a septic system in place yet.
Okay.
But they're in the middle of putting it in.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff?
I got a couple of public here.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so I'd ask for public input on this request.
I'm Ruben's neighbor, and I think this should be approved. They're wonderful people, and it doesn't affect our farming operation or our house or anything, and so I think that you should approve this.
Would you state your name again for the record, please?
Larry French.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Madam Chairman, I move we close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just got a couple points of clarification. Number 2 is staff recommendation, the staff condition. It says that there won't be any structures stored on site for an extended period of time. You want to define extended period of time?
Madam Chair, that is a good, and Commissioner Tilden, that is a good question. You know, I don't have a definition for that. We're certainly welcome to consider, if you want to approve this, be more specific.
That's all I'm saying. You know, maybe we ought to come up with a specific time, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, I
Or
don't care.
a week or 2 weeks, certainly.
The applicant seems to think that 2 weeks or 3 weeks is.
1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks. Well, I wouldn't cut yourself short. How about if we give you 3? Okay. You want to change that to 3? That's
No longer than 3 weeks.
And then, the other question I had, just a point of clarification, in the past with SUPs, some of them are specific to the applicant, some of them are with the land. Most cases, it goes with the land. In this case, because the Millers are setting up a business that potentially could be sold in the future to someone else. If the business is changed in any way, or like it's expanded or it's sold or anything like that, do they have to come and get an amended SUP?
Yes.
Which is, well, if it's expanded significantly, again, what is the definition
Yeah,
of?
but I mean, if it's sold and the buyer plans to expand his business from what it is, from what the SUP is approved, then we have to go through amended SUP process, correct?
No, unless you signify that or make that a condition, SUPs run with the land.
Yeah.
As they're written now. If you want that to change, then Madam Chair, I would suggest a condition. If you want it to just be associated with the property owner, I would suggest you make that a condition.
No, I mean, if I could, all I'm getting at is if this SUP is issued,
Yes.
if the business is sold in the future and this existing SUP is changed in any way by the new owner, then that new owner has to come for amended SUP.
Correct.
If he wants to enlarge the building,
Yes.
do anything outside the scope of this.
Yeah, that's correct. If it just goes into a new name without any size changes.
Yeah.
This SUP.
Then
would
it's
still
fine.
be valid.
I just don't want to put ourselves in a position that, say, the business is very successful, and I hope it is. And they decide to sell it 8-10 years down the road, and the new buyer comes in and wants to really expand it, and then you get the neighbors all upset. That's all.
If it's changed to manufacturing something different, if they don't change the size or anything, if they want to manufacture something different than what he's listed here, do they have to come back?
Has to be re-reviewed,
Okay.
just for the specific use.
So I'm fine.
So,
I'm sure I'll make a motion that we approve with the defining of the word extended to a period of 3 weeks.
second.
Moved and seconded to approve with change in condition 3. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It's approved.
2019. Sorry.
I don't make no.
We're not going backwards. Happy time.
Sorry about that.
Do you, your numbers, do you do 019 or just do
19. Just a 19. Doesn't P and Z use a 0?
We do.
See, and I think that's why the clerk side never has added the 0, because we want to be just enough different that you can
Yeah.
tell by looking at it, this is a P and Z resolution versus a clerk
Good idea.
resolution. And I think that's why we've never done it in my time here anyway.
That works for me.
Okay. I think I questioned that.
I think we're close enough, so we will move on with the public hearing for Hecht Tower SPP 226. Thank you, John. Kim?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a special use permit application submitted by Scott Hecht on December 9th, 2021 to allow construction of a 160-foot tall self-supporting monopole communication tower. This use is classified as a major utility use. This is located in the GRP, General Powell zoning district. Owner is Scott J. Hecht and Janice N. Hecht. Historically, the applicant plans to replace an unpermitted 160-foot communication tower that was built in the 1970s with a new communication tower. The old tower was outdated and obsolete, and this new tower will have space leased to TCT West Communications. This property is located at 1110 Road 9 in Powell, which is approximately 1.6 miles south of the city of Powell and east of State Highway 295. Neighboring land uses to the north, west, and south are primarily residential. There's a single commercial use bordering the northeast corner of the property. Uses directly to the east and southeast are agricultural. The tower will be constructed on a site where there is an existing building and an existing tower. The parcel of land is relatively flat, and the area for the proposed tower is a drive-in parking area constructed of packed dirt and gravel. And the proposed tower site is located on a parcel with an existing oil field tool business. Wyoming Completion Technologies is located on the site. Notice of public hearing was published in the Powell Tribune on February 1 and February 8, 2022. Mailed notices to all surrounding land owners within 660 feet of the subject property were sent out on January 26, 2022. Staff report was sent to the applicant and the Board of County Commissioners prior to this public hearing. With agency referrals, Garland Light and Power stated they have the capacity to serve the additional 5 to 10 kilowatt. The proposed tower may require. Park County Weed and Pest stated a long-term noxious weed management plan will not be required, but they do recommend continuation of bare ground practice and adherence to best management practices for controlling the spread of noxious weeds. No public comments have been received. Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this application on January 19th and recommended approval with conditions. Those conditions have been met. A statement of compatibility from the applicant: the tower will be self-supporting, 160-foot tall communication tower. The tower will not be tall enough for beacons. It does not need to be guided. It does not emit radiation and does not emit noise. As a result, there will be minimal to no visual or audio impact. The tower will be constructed on compacted gravel having a 23-foot diameter base with ballast providing support. The tower will be set back 175 feet from Highway 295. No lights are proposed other than very small status lights. Property has no non-conformities. No nuisances have been reported. A soils report is not required because the structure will be placed on a 23-foot diameter ballast base. Domestic water is not proposed. Parking regulations do not apply to this use. The proposed use will not produce sewage or wastewater. No signs are proposed. Solid waste, the proposed use will not create solid waste. No specific criteria for the identified use. The use is not located in an overlay district. Site plan review is required for major utility use. However, this project is exempt from review because the construction will not include new buildings exceeding 5,000 square feet of floor area, and new development of the land does not exceed 1 acre in size. Madam Chair, we have our list of findings and recommended conditions for your consideration, and you can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions at this time?
I just, the old tower, was that just for TVs and stuff, or what was?
I assume it's for LL Smith's truck radios. I'm sure.
Oh, for the truck radio. So this new one will be more communication.
It's gonna be the same. The only thing on it right now is TCT's using it for their internet. And they let me use my internet on it. So that's all the use that we have right now.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so are there any comments from the public?
I'm Chair, I'm moving for the public hearing.
Second.
Second, to close the public hearing. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Uh,
Okay. Pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair. I'm going to approve special use permit, tower permit 226. I believe that this really is formality. They're replacing the exact same height tower with a newer version. Coming into compliance from an unpermitted tower.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the application as submitted. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
22-20.
You sure?
Maybe 2021. I do know it's 2022.
Good job, Patty.
Thank you.
You get better all the time.
I'm just shrinking them down, all right.
Thanks for working with us.
You bet, thank you.
Your P and Z guys is real good to work with too.
Thank you. Good to hear.
Appreciate your help. We had no clue what we were doing on the process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
summer trips. Must be really good.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, that's the truck over there. I'll fix that over there. That's
Right up
real.
from the bottom or over the top.
Come over the top.
Wyoming Creek.
I think we're close enough. The next thing on our agenda is a public hearing for the Hawkeye Ranch floodplain 1-22.
Good afternoon, good morning still. I've got the floodplain development permit application on Hawkeye Ranch. The applicant is Jeffrey Gentile. The applicant requests approval to do temporary maintenance to stabilize the toe of the levee on the property at 4148 South Fork Road, Lee. The need to maintain the levee is to minimize magnitude of near bank shear stress force. Approximately 7,267 cubic yards of cut fill material will be balanced within the 100-year floodplain with no loss of materials or rise in floodplain resulting. The landowner has a desire to undergo a larger project of flood and erosion control by restoring the river and creating smaller setback levees outside of Zone A in the future. The regulations that apply to this particular project are the 2015 Clark County Development Standards and Regulations, Chapter 4, Section 5A, Floodplain Overlay District. This particular project site, again, is at 4148 South Fork Road. It's approximately 35.5 miles southwest of Cody, and that's a straight line distance on the west bank of the South Fork of the Shoshone River. Figure 1 shows the project location. The river is highly braided, and the alluvial nature of the river in this area results in large cobble bed material moving regularly with minimal vegetation growing. The nearest existing structures, as shown on aerial photography, are approximately 1,100 feet away from the site to the northwest. Figure 2 shows you a little bit about the surroundings, mostly ag lands out this way. Notice of public hearing for today's public hearing, we're placing the Cody Enterprise on February 1st and February 8th of 2022. Neighbor notices, excuse me, were sent on January 26th of 2022 to all landowners within 660 feet of the property boundary. Agency notices were sent on January 24th, 2022 to the county engineer, county treasurer, Weed Pest, the fire district fire inspector, Wyoming Game and Fish, Army Corps of Engineers, excuse me, the local conservation district and travel limited. We did receive a few responses from these folks. Kevin Little from the Corps of Engineers indicated that they have not yet issued a permit for the project, and they did confirm today that that's still true, but the applicant is hoping to have that within a month. On January 24th, the county treasurer's office indicated that taxes are paid on the property. January 27th, Kim Johnson, our National Flood Insurance Program Site Coordinator, indicated that he reviewed the permit materials and does not see any issues with the proposal from a floodplain management perspective. He does recommend conditioning actions based upon anything that may come from the Corps of Engineers. We did receive, since the time of staff report delivery, a response from the county engineer. He did directly email that to you last night, but I'll just summarize quickly. Brian Edwards indicated that riverbank erosion has historically been a problem along this stretch of the South Fork River. He indicates that maintenance is needed to the levee to control future further loss of property beyond the existing levee. He added that this maintenance is limited to less than 730 feet of the entire 2,905-foot levee. He understands that the toe of the levee will be stabilized using sand and gravel removed from the stream channel, rerouting low flow away from the existing toe of the embankment, which will reduce near bank shear forces and stress. He does understand that no net material will be added to or removed from the limits of the floodplain, and it should not substantially alter the flood elevations in the area. He added that it is understood that a Corps of Engineers permit will be secured before the plan work is initiated, and he does not have any substantial concerns, though he did mention that any future or further repairs and improvements proposed would require either a separate floodplain permit or an amended floodplain permit. We have not received any public comments on this application. As you're aware, we have to approve or deny a floodplain permit based on all the provisions of the regulations and the following relevant factors. Each of these factors the applicant has provided a response to. Number one, the danger to life and property due to flooding or erosion damage. The purpose of this project is to direct the higher near bank shear forces towards the center of the channel and away from the existing levee embankment. The project will decrease the probability of levee failure, therefore decreasing danger to life and property due to flooding or erosion damage. Number two, the susceptibility of the proposed facility and its contents to flood damage and the effect of such damage on the owner. The susceptibility of the property to flood damage will be slightly minimized due to diverting the high force flows to the east. Number three, danger that materials may be swept onto other lands to the injury of others. Maintenance of the existing levee will use only native cobble, gravel, and sands, and will decrease danger or risk of materials being swept downstream to the injury of others. Number four, the compatibility of the proposed use with existing and anticipated development. The materials used to repair the stream bank are compatible with existing and anticipated development. Number five, the safety of access to the property in times of flood for ordinary and emergency vehicles. The proposed project will not hinder the safety of access to the property in times of flood for ordinary and emergency vehicles. Access to the property is from the South Fork Road and will not be impacted by the project work. Number six, the costs of providing governmental services during and after the flood conditions, including maintenance and repair of streets, bridges, and public utilities and facilities. The proposed project will not impact public streets, bridges, or utilities and facilities. The project will not have an impact on the cost of providing governmental services during or after flood conditions to such infrastructure. Number seven, the expected heights, velocity duration, rate of rise, and sedimentation of floodwaters. The applicant's engineer stated that while the proposed conditions of the South Fork of the Shoshone River will still have very high width to depth ratio that will encourage sedimentation of floodwater, the sedimentation may be slightly reduced based upon a very slight reduction in width to depth ratio that will result in a very minor increase in hydraulic radius. The sedimentation of floodwaters will not change significantly with this maintenance. The engineer further stated that the proposed maintenance will not increase risk, will not reduce flood capacity, and will result in no rise in flood stage. Number eight, the necessity to the facility for a waterfront location. This is a stream bank repair restoration project. Conducting work in a waterfront location is necessary. And number nine, the availability of alternative locations not subject to flooding or erosion damage. Again, it's a stream bank repair restoration project. Conducting work in an alternative location is not an option. And number 10, the relationship of the proposed use to the land use plan. The 1998 land use plan specifies the county will regulate building and floodplains, maintain a balance between human needs and protection of the environment, and enforce existing laws on river channeling and river work. Regulation and enforcement of existing laws of the floodplain is met with this permit. And the county's review is intended to balance impact to the property, aka human need, and environmental protection. Staff has provided some recommendations. We do recommend approval with the following conditions. Based on the fact that the Corps of Engineers has not yet responded with a permit, I am requesting 2 additional conditions, and I'll read those into the record. So the conditions of approval that are recommended are as follows. Number 1, this floodplain development permit applies only to the repair and stabilization of approximately 730 feet of the left bank of the South Fork of the Shoshone River along the property addressed as 4148 South Fork Road, Cody, Wyoming. Number 2, the applicant shall not commence activities approved under this permit until evidence of the United States Army Corps of Engineers approval has been provided to the Planning and Zoning Department. Number 3, the applicant shall comply with any conditions required by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Number 4, this floodplain development permit is valid for 1 year from the date of approval. Number 5, county personnel may conduct site visits during or following the completion of construction. Number 6, the applicant shall notify the floodplain administrator when project work is complete and provide photographs of as-built conditions. Number 7, any changes to the proposed project or proposed structures or development in the floodplain that are not expressly covered by this permit shall require a separate floodplain development permit. And 8, the applicant shall otherwise comply with Park County, Wyoming 2015 development standards and regulations. There are a few pictures of the project site included in that staff report, and I'm available if you have any questions.
And you mentioned these are amended conditions because those are what I have, correct?
So all of them are the same, but I added 2.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and that was just because I was expecting Corps of Engineers permit.
And then my other question was the standards of evaluation, the regulations, are those county standards or
Those are exactly out of our development regs.
Any other questions from the commissioners at the moment? It is a public hearing, so are there any questions or concerns from the public?
Madam Chairman, I move we close public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Pleasure of the commission.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to approve floodplain development permit 1-22 based on standards of valuation.
Second.
With conditions.
Moved and seconded to approve with the included conditions. Any further discussion? And all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Resolution number.
20, 22, 21.
Madam Chair, we have a couple of minutes. I have a question for you. It's really relevant to this. So with our land use plan, are we, we're looking at possibly going through regulations and development standards. Will floodplain be addressed in our land use plan?
And you have to remember, we participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, so we have to follow those rules at a minimum.
Explain to me, what is that?
So that's where if the county participates in the NFIP, then people who live in the county are eligible for federal flood insurance programs. If we weren't, then they wouldn't be eligible for those federally backed programs.
If we weren't what?
If we weren't in the NFIP, then our residents would not qualify for federally backed flood insurance. And we've been in the program since like the late 80s or the 90s.
Because there are some counties that don't.
Well, there's some municipalities that don't.
Thank you.
But well, Pell doesn't have any floodplain. So,
You have flood insurance or your place?
No, because I'm not even, and if they ever map it out from the street, they can survey.
and the thing is,
Thank
you can actually get flood insurance and not be in the floodplain. Because rivers are not the only cause of flooding. So you could qualify for cheap flood insurance because you're under the NFIP.
When you have to have, you're regulated by the state, by our court.
Okay, all right, go. So get things started. I didn't think it was gonna happen this fast, so we didn't get on there, but this is Jack, not Jack.
Oh.
Jack Martin,
Okay,
Jack Martin. He's gonna be the Homeland Security Director.
All right.
what's the last name?
Martin, M-A-R-T-I-N. So,
Have you started yet? Have you started?
We just got him done payroll.
Okay, that's what I was checking on.
Today's his first day. So
Welcome,
Thank you.
yeah, welcome.
we're getting him all ready to go and tune in.
Excellent.
Got a big job ahead of him. Looking forward to it. Yeah, anyway, he comes from LA County SO, been here for several years, has a lot of experience in big floods, fires, not just once every year or once every 5 years, but pretty much every other year. So he brings a wealth of experience in big things, big events. So
Excellent. Look forward to working with you in the future.
absolutely, sir.
Have a seat.
Have a seat up here. Yeah, so thanks for having me on.
Sheriff Stewart's here to talk about a command trailer and bullet resistant vest.
Sure, so as the board I'm sure is aware, previously had authorized $82,000 for command posts for Homeland Security. Well, it didn't get ordered. There was a ball drop there. I talked to special ops who got the bid over here, Billy Sheridan. He was gonna rework the bid, came back and said, to be honest, there's no way he can even do it within a year's time. And it would have probably an increase of 30 to 40%. So I said, disregard, we're not gonna do it. We have a big 30-something foot command post now, so we're fine about it. I don't see the need to spend that kind of money on another command post. Especially when you're talking 30 to 40% more than 80,000, 82,000 allotted. So what I'm here to request is a couple things. Number one, our detention staff has got a mixed bag of body armor. Some they bought themselves, some are external, some are internal. So when we got these guys from Angel Armor,
to that grant. It's a company that paid for all of our patrol armor, helmets and rifle rated armor. So one of the things I was gonna request is go ahead and outfit our detention staff with that same armor, rifle rated, and so it's all consistent, we all have the same stuff. You know, 'cause that's always one of the fears when you're moving prisoners, high profile cases, is sweep in the parking lot, make sure there's nobody there. So we working with the company, we don't feel the need for them to have the heavy duty rifle plates because the soft armor is rated for rifle anyway. And it's a lot lighter. So we would look at going for the same brand, but a cheaper model, which of course it's cheaper, just doesn't have the heavy duty rifle plates for the big 5.56 and for the Russian caliber stuff. So the 7.62. So and the cost on that, it should be for we have 6 that want to wear what they already have under the shirt armor. So we'd be looking at 18 sets of it, and $1,000 would be the high end, which is pretty comparable to what we paid for investing. We're right in the $800-900 range anyway. So what I would do is request to use some of that money to outfit those 18 deputies with that angel armor. And the other thing I would like to request is we sent some of our guys to the NTOA, this tactical school up in Montana. We have a guy that's a trained trainer for tactical medicine. And it's not just tactical medicine, it's kind of like that stop the bleed stuff you hear about for major trauma wounds, packing wounds, with stuff. So he's a trainer. What we would like to do is outfit our patrol cars with a bigger kit for that. Right now we have day school generic first aid kit. So we want to outfit those vehicles with a heavier trauma kit. Right now we have the electric automatic defibrillators in every vehicle, which was purchased through a grant. So this would make quite a kit for our guys, first responders, responding up on a motor vehicle crash, a gunshot wound or whatever. And so we figured to outfit every deputy, everybody and trained. And it also comes, this kit comes with they call them trauma blocks. So it actually has big old wounds, you gotta learn how to pack them. They'll carry tourniquets right now, so everybody's carrying tourniquets on their body. We'll start carrying Narcan next week, once we get everybody trained. That was all bought through that the Sheriff's Office Foundation, that nonprofit. So everybody can carry Narcan, which we had an incident 2 months ago, we can use it. And what did crash with a fentanyl overdose. Luckily, the EMS got there fast enough to bring the person back. So with that kit, I think we would be really set up with everything we have. The training our officers are getting nowadays really gives we're beating almost 90% of the time we're beating EMS there. So this would give us a leg up with that. To do every single deputy, all the training, the equipment, everything would be a total of 10 grand. And I promise I'm not going for the whole 80. I mean, that would just set us miles ahead of where we're at right now. And it's legitimate stuff we could really put use to.
Was the 80, were they grant dollars originally or?
That was that CARES Act.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
so we just have to redirect.
And that's something I need to sit down with somebody on that to see what was spent on these items and what wasn't.
That would be Molly as soon as we get the file figured out, which we're a little bit iffy on at this point, but we'll get it.
I have this huge list, so I'm just not sure what was ordered and paid for.
Okay, we just need to go through the vouchers with Steve that went through the ARP or the CARES Act funds.
That's all I have.
I'm sure I'll move we approve the vote for it.
Second.
Second, to approve both requests, one for approximately $10,000 and one for approximately $18,000. Out of the existing. Further discussion? Yes.
Do you foresee a command trailer needed in the future?
No.
Good.
I
I wasn't in favor of it when Jack came the first time. I thought, what the hell we need that for?
Our biggest issue with that command trailer is so big. You know, it's triple axle and but it's very useful. We keep it indoors in our hangar, so it's not out the sun. It's very useful. I mean,
I'm not saying it could never be used. I ranked the red up there with this drone.
Sure.
Just give me a little heads up where I'm at.
Don't come ask for a drone.
The current command trailer, do you have a PA system on that?
We do.
Okay, because that came up during our fair board, them not having a PA on the ground, and I said, I think the command trailer.
It should. It had when we originally bought it. We originally expected.
we were just talking about safety issues at fair, and they're looking at a new sound system over there, and we weren't sure how extensive that needed to be, so we were talking.
I will verify that. Yeah, I'll verify that.
It was a lost children thing, you know, and make it out.
You know, what's happened over the fair, up dragging on, and over the years, everybody's gotten used to that being in a certain place. So everybody knows to go when they're missing a kid or something. And that's usually what we do is we grab one of those people and make them stay in there with us. And so they're not wandering and then they find them and go home and we don't know. So we've become very versed in lost kids over there.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
I,
Okay.
One last thing, if I may, one of the requirements we're gonna need with bringing Jack on board is a governance appointment. And that requires a letter from the board requesting him be appointed. So I can do my call.
Getting that done. Chairman decide.
Go ahead, make the motion.
Seconded to do a letter to state Homeland Security to approve the appointment of our new Homeland Security director. All those in favor?
hey,
Okay.
nomination. We're just nominating. I have a real, yeah, Scott, could you follow up with me later if, make sure that on the various exposure things that they can be great, get the communication that they talked about in the release.
Yeah, and I have not seen anything yet from them, but I need to get with that Everett to make sure we get those signs with that image addresses and I get with Carbon County.
It's been a year and a half. I don't want to just be swept under the rug just because they have to have meeting.
Agreed.
Okay,
Yeah, I will follow up on
yeah,
that.
appreciate it.
I'd like
Let
to
me know
have,
that-
I'd like to have those signs in place for next year.
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming up there too.
Yeah, no problem. I come up there and eat my family steaks.
All it did was verify how.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be sure to have it. Thanks. Hey.
Again, you already got a Cody sweatshirt too.
Welcome back.
We'll get you a towel one.
I'll wear it.
Extra
Okay,
large.
we have one more thing on the agenda at 1:15. guys okay with starting a couple minutes early?
Sure.
Here to talk about project requests for the upcoming SLIP grant.
Yes, so last year's SLIB did not have any funding. So we were not able to apply, which really was kind of a big hit because they're our biggest funding resource throughout the year, and they do 2 grant cycles a year. One in January and then one in June. So this is for the upcoming June state meeting. So this year we are applying for 3 different things. We're applying to replace our front doors in our care center. Currently, one of them is broken and they're the full open doors, and they're wanting to replace them with sliding doors to make it easier to get residents in and out and those types of things. The total cost to replace those is just over $24,000. SLIB will provide half of the funding, so they'll provide about $12,200 for us to do that if funding is awarded. Secondly, all of our ambulances are being equipped with a new locking system for the stretchers, and the stretchers we have now are not compatible. So we're applying for a new stretcher to be used in the ambulances, and that's about $22,000. So half of that would be about $11,000 if SLIB awarded us the money for that. And then,
Stretcher, excuse me, that's one stretcher.
mhm, yeah, yep. And lastly, they are wanting to replace the serving line in our hospital cafeteria. Right now, it's just one long, large piece of equipment, and we've had a couple of pieces break recently, and they are not able to get replacement parts for just the one specific spot. So they're wanting to get one that's modular in 3 different pieces. And that total is $73,000. So SLIB would provide us about $36,000 for that. So in total, we're asking about $59,800. It is a lot smaller of an amount than we've asked for in the past, but they do have limited funding again this year. So we thought if we asked for a smaller dollar amount, our chances of getting everything funded may be higher. So that is where we are with that.
Does the foundation then pay for this, or?
So the other matching 50% of the funds will come out of how hospital districts reserve funds.
Okay.
So the foundation,
It
no.
won't be a
Mm-mm, no.
Other questions?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the letter of support.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the letter of support for the SLIP. Valley Hospital.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We haven't voted yet.
Any further discussion?
Sorry, I retract that.
All those in
That's
favor?
fair.
Aye.
Aye. All those in
Aye.
favor?
Thank you.
Now
Now I
you
can say thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, stay warm.
Yes. At some point, maybe drop us a note when there's any kind of update on the ambulance building and all that.
Yeah, that should be, I think it's in the works. Last I heard, they were working with the city on a few things, so.
Were they, it's not gonna be in the field anymore?
No, so it'll be between the clinic and the heart.
In the heart.
Yeah, is the last I heard. So I think last they were working on some zoning things, I think.
Oh, city people.
So I know. So hopefully they can get that one.
Okay.
And this will be in June, when we'll know for sure from the state. So I'll just wait on that. So, thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it. Thanks, Molly, nice to meet you.
Okay, anything else to? Good. Yes, sir.
Move adjourned.
Second.
Very good.
Let's do adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye. CJ, you came all the way back just for that?
Yeah.
Started
Pauline, I think that's.
a minute or two early. Did you get the numbers today? You know what they want?
We've been sending it kind of piecemeal. I think we got it.
I know, right?